Hello, everyone. Welcome to AV Academy. Amber here. I am so excited to connect with one of my dear friends here, DelRae. I still like to call you Dr. DelRae because it flows so greatly. But we have been introduced years and years ago in the fitness industry, and I've always kept in touch. She's so inspiring with a lot of her entrepreneurship skills, and I think more or less being able to connect a community of people together. And so I wanted to bring her here forefront to you guys to kind of introduce you to her businesses and maybe get some of her tips and tricks to help you profit better in your business as well. So DelRae, go ahead and tell our audience a little bit about yourself and your business, and what you do, where you're from.
Awesome. Well, it's great to be here. I love reconnecting with you. I've been following your journey for so long. I'm just so proud of this platform. It's exciting to be able to share stories of resilience and entrepreneurship. It's something I'm very passionate about. I've always had an entrepreneurial mind growing up in rural North Dakota on a family farm. So my brain was really used to uncertainty. Constantly everything was uncertain, from the way our days looked to the weather and how it would affect the crops to self-discipline, getting up early. So I think success principles were really embedded in my upbringing, which really allowed me to be able to step into a place of confidence and certainty in entrepreneurship. And I know that a lot of people don't necessarily get that kind of upbringing, so I love sharing that we can rewire and retrain our brain to be able to do that no matter where you're at in life. So I grew up on that farm with a really, really incredible work ethic, but I really struggled with my mindset because it was very different than everybody around me. So from a very early age, I started to understand what it was like to be different and to think differently. Judgment was a really large part of growing up in a small town. Other people's opinions, don't shine too bright or have too big of a vision because that's just weird. And so a lot of these challenges came at a really early age because I was the big dreamer and had a big vision. I was always passionate about healthcare, nutrition, and fitness because I was an athlete in high school and in college. And part of the reason why I put a lot of pressure on myself in academics and athletics was because I grew up very humbly. I was the oldest of 4 kids. We grew up in a double wide trailer, 45 miles from a town with groceries, and the last kid to shower had a cold trickle of water. So I knew that role modeling academics and athletics was important so that my parents wouldn't feel bad about not being able to afford college. So I put a lot of pressure on myself. I was not a naturally talented athlete, thank goodness, because it taught me everything I needed to know about self-discipline, consistency, hard work. In fact, it was a really interesting journey because my sister was very naturally talented and I wasn't, but we actually ended up with very different mindsets because of the choices I had to make in order to excel. So a close family friend of ours was a chiropractor, and he kept me super healthy when a lot of other athletes were getting injured, taught me a lot about nutrition and health and well-being. And it really inspired me. I knew I wanted to do something in healthcare. I thought it was going to be medicine. And to be honest, that's kind of what the path was supposed to be, according to family, that, medicine, the first medical doctor of the family. But when I started to really think about my core values, I just knew I had to do something in prevention and education. I just saw so many people living less than ideal quality of lives because of the lack of education and resources around healthcare. So I decided to go into chiropractic, and I was, on scholarship, running track and cross country at NDSU in Fargo. Got accepted into chiropractic school, ready to do my doctorate, was super excited. And 2 months later, I found out I was pregnant at 20.
Then those kiddos come into play, and then we got to juggle, right?
So that was a big one for me because, one, you just don't do that growing up where I did. It was a big mistake. And not only was the event a mistake, I felt like one because of how I was treated, right? Going back and really judged, and then having to decide what fork in the road was I going to take. If I was going to go to the big town of Minneapolis, and mind you, we don't even have a stoplight in our small town, and North Dakota is like a stop sign, and only because there's a T in the road. And I was going to this big city and deciding to pursue my doctorate because I knew that if I didn't do it, I probably wouldn't ever do it. So I started when my older daughter was 3 months old, and I remember it was the first time in my life that I really doubted myself. And I'm the type of person, like, if I set my mind to something, I am absolutely going to do it. I'm going to see it through to the end. When I make a decision, I'm all in. But when I remember vividly one day, and I think it was the first or second day of classes and the start of school, and I picked her up from daycare. I'm driving down 494, which is our interstate with 4 lanes. She's screaming in the back, and if you ever have a screaming infant, you know exactly what that feels like. I look to the side of me, and in the passenger seat are just like textbooks just piled up, right? And I remember pulling into my apartment and sitting in the car and just bawling. Like, I honestly think this is the first time that you took on too much. What were you thinking? You're so dumb. Oh, why would you make this decision? You're going to fail. And ironically, I got a book in the mail from the chiropractor that inspired me to be one, called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Possibly.
Timeless classic. And I
Mhm.
had done a lot of personal development even when I was younger, but this one was very important for me. And I started to just take my life, overwhelming life at that time, just day by day. And I literally lived out every success principle in that book. And it was a huge start to my entrepreneur journey while I was in school.
Yeah, awesome. It's so great when we find, I have a book too. It's so funny how just one thing can really change it's almost like a pivotal flip. You're like, hold on, you kind of think a little bit differently, right? Going after that. So mine was definitely Tony Robbins. I think his book was one of mine first ones that was like, hold on, made me think a little bit differently about things. And so you mentioned several things that even before I was like, man, we so aligned with some of our stories, right? I had my daughter very young. It was a huge shift. Healthcare was one of my things I wanted to go into, specifically dentistry. I loved preventative dentistry. I thought I wanted to be a dentist, but then I was like, once I saw it, I thought I'd rather be on the preventative side and do the hygiene. And so I ended up doing the hygiene, and that path really brought me to where I'm at today, right? A lot of people go, well, you're not a hygiene. You don't ever do hygiene. I haven't picked up a scaler in 10 years, right? But if I wasn't, I wouldn't be where I was at today. And so it's so funny how these pivotal stones kind of build your journey to entrepreneurship, because maybe some certain things didn't succeed, or they did, or it was just kind of like, okay, do I want to do this with my life really forever? But you learn things from them, and you build what you can do from there. And today we have more opportunities than ever with the digital platforms that we have available to us to make additional streams of income, right? And I'm not always a huge believer that you have to have a huge passion in everything you do to make additional income. You could have an Amazon store and sell spray bottles and make some money, right? But the whole goal is to really find a path that works for you to fulfill yourself financially, because I think that is one of people's biggest fears when it comes to entrepreneurship is, how am I going to do this, right? How am I going to financially take care of myself? And I only have myself to depend on, right? If I'm building a business. And, what are some of your tips and tricks you would give somebody, whether they're further along in their journey or earlier on their journey, that you've learned that have helped you be better building communities, and also help you with time management and really juggling being a mom, being the head of the household, having time for yourself to go to the gym and work out, but also make sure that your income and your business are still thriving.
Yeah, it's powerful. I think, I can only give advice from my own life experience. I feel like the more that I learn in entrepreneurship, the less I can tell anybody what to do. It's just I feel like I'm not an expert at anything because I'm constantly immersed in learning and growing and just being better and trying to pivot and figuring out, especially I think during this time of such uncertainty, right? And overwhelm. It's sometimes hard to even take the first step, or we are in massive procrastination and fear because maybe you're struggling with messaging during this time, especially depending on what industry you're in. Maybe you feel like, oh my gosh, does this even provide value with everything that's going on? So I think a big passion of mine is helping people understand that leadership and entrepreneurship, one of the most important skills that you can develop is adaptability, the ability to just adapt and have confidence in your ability. to be able to adapt. And that has served me so well in my journey in the past, 13, 14 years of really diving into entrepreneurship. I knew early on in school, mentorship was going to be very important. I knew success leaves clues. So I actually sought out mentorship from some of the most successful healthcare professionals in the Twin Cities. And as a single mom, I literally went to them and said, I will pay you to work for you because I need to know exactly how you think. I didn't even say I want to know what you do every day.
Hi, sister. High five.
Yes.
Awesome. I
So
love
I
it.
want to know how you think. And I also really wanted to align with people that weren't, and this is something I learned down the road, but I was such a high achiever and high performer and really stressed achiever. I was rooting a lot of my happiness in goals and achievement, and largely because one, I was a words of affirmation love language. I like learned so much about myself and why I sought out this kind of achievement driven personality. And I realized for so long I was chasing it to just manage my self-worth and my value, especially after all of the limiting beliefs I adopted as a young mom. And I strove for perfection and to be the best. And at the same time, I really lost fulfillment in my days. I realized I was searching for happiness outside of me in so many different ways. And I feel that a lot of us that are high achievers or the entrepreneurial mind, sometimes we suffer in silence with more mental health challenges, anxiety, depression, high levels of good, and then the vicious cycle of the roller coaster of the up and down. I've studied entrepreneurship so much now to understand that so many of us in our circles and peers really struggle with this. And so it's a large part of my journey and giving people a level of understanding that you're going to have seasons, and a lot of them are going to be hard. There's probably going to be more hard seasons than there are celebration of successes in entrepreneurship. But what I've realized is every single one of those events, unexpected events. And if you look at your life almost like a lifeline and you draw peaks and valleys, you draw the highs and you draw the lows. And unfortunately now with social media and so many, success stories of really incredible entrepreneurs, you're only seeing the peaks and you're seeing highlight reel, highlight reel, highlight reel, and you're comparing yourself to that. And if you're in a valley and you're struggling to get out, or you're in a place of having to pivot with your business, maybe it took a hit during the pandemic and now you're kind of rebuilding, you're rebuilding community and your messaging. It's really hard sometimes to not dip with your emotions in those seasons of your business. And so when I started, I worked in a practice for a while after school. I quickly realized culture was very important. I didn't align with the core values. I was really searching for a way to go out on my own. I was very passionate about health and nutrition specifically, and had a program in my office that was really successful. I learned a lot about marketing and messaging only through experience. And that's probably one of my biggest pieces of advice is people always ask me, how are you so confident? And how are you really authentic at the same time? And like sharing your real story vulnerably, your doubts about yourself, your fears that you faced, but you're really confident. So while life experience gives you confidence, so it's so ironic that the very thing that gives us confidence, we try to avoid, because a lot of us that are perfectionists, or we're looking for the best way to do it, or the most beautiful way of doing entrepreneurship, that's another lesson 101. Like my life is just not, we were just talking about this, before we actually started the interview, is you're trying to get your dog out of the video. I'm trying to like manage children and a significant other that's also an entrepreneur in the kitchen right now. Like that's actually the real story. And that's the majority of the story. So I personally love to be super transparent in the journey. And what I realized is finding true fulfillment was completely different than finding happiness. And being an entrepreneur that is so fulfilled every day, there was literally a flip of a switch about 5.5 years ago when I found myself in a big transition period, both personally and professionally. I don't like the cliche like rock bottom to, millionaire or anything like that, because I think it's just so funny. But that honestly is just my life story. That's exactly what happened. So I do share it honestly. I was in really unhealthy relationships after unhealthy relationship. because I did not value my own worth, because I held on to a lot of limiting beliefs about myself. And then I ended up in, the world of nutraceuticals and the diet culture, and feeling so unfulfilled as now a mom with two girls who were going to start to truly see what my life meaning was about. And I just knew when I hit that rock bottom moment, got out of that relationship, moved in with a friend into her basement, literally started over at zero. I had put a lot of time, money, and effort into an online business after I got out of the office. And in that business, what I learned is what I did not want for my life. And sometimes, if you're at that place right now, maybe looking at your business or an opportunity and saying, gosh, I just don't want this anymore, or I need to make a shift and a pivot. So many of us hold on to the original dream without adaptability, but we don't truly take a look at what level of fulfillment we have in our life in many areas. And my pain points at that time were so big. I don't feel congruent. I don't feel like I can raise two girls with a mom that's, in the weight loss industry, and looking at all the marketing being done that just didn't resonate with what was in my heart to create change. I looked at the lack of time I had with my family, and I asked myself, okay, you want a 7-figure business online as a solo entrepreneur, but at the cost of what? At the cost of your fulfillment, at the cost of time with your family, at the cost of your core values? Like, absolutely not. No, I don't care. I will move in with my friend for 30 days and figure out a better way, because I want to course correct. I want to figure out what makes me happy and fulfilled beyond income.
Yes.
And that is what happened 5.5 years ago. So I completely started over, was introduced to an incredible opportunity that was a fit for me. I always say what I do isn't a fit for everyone, because nothing is.
Yeah.
It just was for me, and it aligned with my core values of nourishing my body as a mom, helping other people do the same. A work from home opportunity that was so huge for me as a single mom at that time, and is now, especially in this time of uncertainty. And then the most important part of my journey and fulfillment, I mean, I did a lot of Tony Robbins work too, so we totally resonate on needing validation and significance as a high achiever. And I just, with a flip of a switch, understood that fulfillment comes in daily process of progress, in our journey of growth, in being resilient and gritty, taking unexpected life events, and you get to choose the story that you attach to them, leaning in when it's hard, and sharing transparently that I did not create what I did in the past 5 years. I always say it was 15. It took a decade of failing forward to get where I'm at today with, a 7-figure business. But the most important part was trading my worth and validation in achievement for contribution and service to others. I've cultivated one of the most beautiful communities that I've ever been a part of. And every day I'm looking for a way to give back and serve, and being on the board of a nonprofit now. Some of the projects that I'm most grateful for have nothing to do with the amount of income that I made or a house or a car. It's the fact that I was able to work on, projects like the children's coloring book that we did for coronavirus to help children mentally and emotionally process this trauma. And then relief work, natural disaster relief work changed my life, because it gave me gratitude perspective about what I have every day versus what I don't have. And those have been the keys to the most fulfilling life that I could have possibly imagined.
Yeah, I think gratitude is so powerful, and a lot of people overthink it a lot sometimes, right?
Totally.
Right? It's like, oh, I'm not, and so I think it's, I was doing an interview with somebody else, and she was talking about her affirmations, and I said, share some of those affirmations with me. I'd love to read some of these affirmations, because I think it's almost a reset for us. But one of the things is there's never a final destination for people like us. So we reach that, and then all of a sudden we have a whole new thing, a whole new goal. And so I think one important fear that people are, there's not a destination, right? It doesn't matter if you want to build the biggest company and you want to IPO and you want to cash out with some money. That's not a destination. You're going to have something else next, right? And there's something else next, and there's something else next. And so I think it's just riding the ride, right? Riding the waves. I have a good friend that always says, just ride the waves, to continue to ride the waves. And sometimes you get sucked under, sometimes you get smacked by a wave that freaking, the water goes up your nose. And sometimes you can actually ride it and you're like, wow, this feels great right now for this quick 1 minute for me, somebody like me anyways, right? And it's the same thing with business, and same thing, I really compare it to fitness as well. And I have always, I love fitness because it integrated some really strong things inside of me, but also showed me the things that I don't want. And I think there's a lot of that going on, whether it be, just not being fulfilled by just the external, gratification of winning shows, or the nutrition you put in your body, but understanding the way that it makes you feel, not the way it makes you look, right? And I think that's the same thing with your business. If, it doesn't make you feel good, there's going to be times it doesn't make you feel good and there's a better outcome, but it's got to be something that you enjoy or you're never going to be successful, right? And I think for you, you found the way to help people, and that's the way that you found it to be fulfilling. It wasn't just about the nutrition, it was about educating and helping people and creating a community. And I think you're a lot like me. We've always been really outgoing and like to meet people and find new people in our networks and help them and create a community, and you've been very powerful at that. So if I have a lot of people that I've spoke with that have a fear of doing that, right? They're scared of not being the expert, if you will, right? So, if you can give our audience a few tips on, what they can do to overcome those fears or step out of the fear that's really holding them back from being successful in their business, what could you give them? Just a couple takeaways, that you could give them that you've found on your journey anyways.
Oh my, I love this subject, especially because I had to go through it in order to learn it. I thought that I was a leader previous to the work that I do now. I just wasn't. I had influence, but it was about me. It was about my journey, my story, my achievements, and my brand. And that's why I felt so icky. I knew okay, well, that's great, but I'm so much more than that. And I realized leadership and coaching are completely different. Leadership and sometimes even solo entrepreneurship are completely different. As a solo entrepreneur, it's, trading time for money. It was exhausting at the end of the day. I didn't feel like I was being, supported, encouraged, lifted up. I didn't have a community to surround myself with. So suddenly I was a drained battery at the end of the day trying to see clients. And in that coaching world and that kind of solo entrepreneurship world, I realized the reason why I felt drained is because it was so different than what I do now in leadership. Servant leadership is all about bringing the best out of someone else, helping them discover their greatness, helping them find their authenticity in their story, helping them share it, helping them make an impact, putting them on a pedestal or the spotlight in order to encourage and empower them. And that is what completely transformed my life, both in our customer community as well as our leadership community. Both of those, it is so fulfilling to see people shine as bright as possible. But that took a level of, letting go of my ego, what I thought I had to be perfect, I had to be the expert, I had to have all these credentials behind my name. And the power of servant leadership is you don't have to be the expert. You don't have to be the person with all the credentials, because leadership is not about authority. It's about influence. It's about positive impact. It's about co-creating change with others versus thinking you have to do it on your own. And so going from, one end of the spectrum to the other, this is why I feel so happy and fulfilled. So tips on, creating culture, it all starts with vulnerability. So a growth mindset culture is one that is facilitated. And it's not just facilitated by you, it's facilitated by the members of the community. And often at the beginning, I was like, am I the only one that's going to like empower people, do things? I mean, my community started with my dad and I, because I was like, will you please just like love on the people that I introduce so that way they don't feel like no one's here? And now there's over, 13,000 people that are in one community, and then 22,000 plus people globally in my entire organization, that we really encourage them to support others. We want people living for a reason that's beyond them. We talk a lot about purpose and meaning and why are you here? You're not here to lose weight. You're here to better the quality of your life. Well-being is so much more than an exercise plan or a diet plan. It is mental health, it's financial well-being, it's spiritual, vocational. There's so many components to well-being of an individual that I think our wellness industry is going to get flipped on upside down, because people no longer want the quick fix. Some people do, but what I see is an evolution of what people truly desire for their life. And they desire fulfillment. They desire to live for something bigger than themselves. And if they don't, then likely they're waking up to the world we live in right now with a health crisis, financial crisis, racial crisis, injustice, divide. And when you start to see that and you don't want to solve that problem, that's part of the problem. I feel obligated to get up every day in the morning, inspired, and to be able to role model for my girls the co-creation that I want to see on our planet. I want to focus on the things we can control. So in our community, our number one is that people are valued, seen, heard, empowered, encouraged, recognized, celebrated, appreciated, regardless of their religious belief, regardless of their background, regardless of the color of their skin, regardless of their sexual preferences, regardless of everything that divides us as humans. In our community, you can come as you are, and you can make an impact in the way that you want to in this world. And if we all treated each other that way, with just a little bit more kindness and a little bit of hearing the pain in each other's stories, because that's truly what relates us, I believe there could be unity far beyond we ever thought possible, especially in this time.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's powerful for sure. I mean, I think all of those things, right? They're all shields, right? And if we can put down our shield, I think that that community can be so powerful. And, helping people is something that I think you need to integrate into your business. And so everybody listening to this, from that, maybe you can associate a nonprofit with your business in any industry. Maybe you love to go out to the mountains like I do. I'd love to go climbing, go to the mountains, right? You can associate yourself with the national park cleanup crew. You can do so many different things that you haven't thought of, that all of a sudden is going to bring a new community to you in your business that you never thought. But first you have to give before you get. And that's one of my big things I teach a lot of my dentists. I work with a lot of dentists and orthodontists in their businesses today with direct to consumer, like Smile Direct Club, and all these businesses that are taking away from the specialist who went to school for years and not a mail to order type thing, is understanding that, you got to give before you get. And it's a referral based business. People don't want to buy from a no-name brand. People want to buy from somebody that they know and they trust. And, if you can do that, I think that will be a game changer for most businesses. A lot of people go, well, I don't got extra things to give. We're barely getting by. We're trying to just get the bills rolling and get this business off. But you'd be surprised at the business development opportunities that lie within those nonprofits because of the community. So I love that you just talked about that. That was amazing. Our audience is going to absolutely love that. And, I don't want to steal too much of your time. So I'm going to close out with something that I've asked everyone about, that I've been getting inspired by some routines here. Tell us a little bit about your morning routine, if you will.
Yeah, and this will lead into the conversation that you talked about with time blocking, because this is coming from somebody, if you struggle with that, or you're somebody that really struggles with consistency or self-discipline in your time, you're talking to literally a hot mess express train previously of time management, like choo-choo, like DelRae, Gianna, and her, like my little girl, like we were coming through just like a freight train, and I allowed my days to run me versus me running my days. And that just stemmed from childhood. I mean, if you study psychology, you know most of us are operating in our subconscious belief systems from 7 years old or younger. So I go back to that place often to overcome a lot of the challenges that I face daily that I know I need to improve on or up level my standard of excellence. And I knew time blocking, time management, morning routine, and a commitment to that was going to be absolutely essential. So just like any other habit, I had to create self-discipline around the habit. So time blocking was a necessity for me. And anytime we want to create change in our life, it has to be a must. If you're using the word I should probably do that, or I've heard it from a million entrepreneurs, I should probably should, and then you should all over yourself. And then you don't do anything because there's not a big enough of a pain point for you to make a change. So for me, the must came from a massive pain point. And that pain point was the amount of guilt that I felt while I was at work and the amount of guilt that I felt when I was with my girls. I realized I wasn't giving the best of me to either one. So I was exhausted, stressed, overwhelmed, chaotic. And I realized I let other people's problems enter my life at certain times of the day. I didn't respect my time, so other people didn't respect or value my time. So the flip of the switch was, all right, my must is because I want to be happy and fulfilled serving people in my work. I want to be happy and fulfilled while I'm at home. And I wanted to have that balance my whole life, but didn't figure it out until I started time blocking and putting my oxygen mask on first, which is what I believe a morning routine is all about. As entrepreneurs, we wake up to the problems in our business or other people's or just maybe social media. And I used to be that person too. I'm going to check my email inbox, check in with everybody else except me first thing in the morning. And then our reticular activating system only sees the rest of it the rest of the day. And suddenly you have nothing left of yourself. And a part of the reason why I also avoided self-care is because sometimes as entrepreneurs, what we've heard and I believe limiting narratives around entrepreneurship is he or she that is rise and grind, and blood, sweat, and tears to like work your business. And that's true. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of hard work to start, scale, and exit a business. However, at the cost of what again? And so realizing literally my morning routine was putting my oxygen mask on first was powerful. So it was full realization. I needed to flex a new muscle and a new habit. So time blocking was powerful. I learned how to block chunks of time for morning routine, fitness work. I literally have mastered my calendar in 15-minute increments, down to even sometimes 5 minutes. It's crazy, but if someone's late, I'm like, I'm sorry, you need to reschedule. I value my time so much that others now do too. So I wake up and immediately I have my adaptogenic tea. It's one of the things that has really helped me with managing my stress. And then I will do my gratitude journal. I always write in a gratitude journal, and I also send out 3 notes of gratitude, whether they're text message or even writing gratitude letters and literally popping them in the mail. And I constantly send out gifts to my team, my leadership team, as well as new people, new customers. It's just going the extra mile for gratitude. I will do something in personal development, either a podcast or a book, and I will do some sort of prayer meditation. And then I will absolutely do a morning routine workout of some kind. For me, I ask myself, who needs me today to be on my best game? Who needs me to be my best today? And that helps fuel me and inspire me in a different way that's beyond me. Because sometimes if we get into ruts and self-sabotaging behaviors and we know there's something we need to change, when we're just focused on us, there's again not a level of a necessity for it to be a must to change. So I'm constantly asking myself, if you're going to operate at your best for who needs you, you got to up level your time management. And then, so moving my body has everything to do with changing my state of energy. And I have a playlist, and I will go into that because it's immediate. As we know, music and movement and gratitude are the most powerful tools to changing your state. It was very important for me to do that in this last season. And I'll kind of finish with this because, I knew 5.5 years ago changing my life was going to be important for choice. And I feel like a lot of us as entrepreneurs are looking for more choice. We're looking for a way to live out our purpose. We're looking for a way to make an impact. Most of us, the majority of us, have incredible hearts to serve people, but often our businesses, because we're everything in it, will steal that time, it'll steal that joy. and it'll steal that fulfillment. But I knew that I knew 5.5 years ago, if I could create a residual income stream, if I could create other opportunities to create passive income, that freedom of choice would always be there for me as a single mom. And I didn't know that I was going to meet the most epic human along the way in an incredible partnership. But last year was one of the hardest years of my life. I lost my grandparents who felt like parents, and he went through treatments for something very significant. And I didn't know that what I had built would give me the time freedom to literally say yes to the most important people in my life, when before I would have absolutely had to say no. And I think sometimes we have to envision the future of what we're going to miss out on if we don't get out of our own way. And again, sometimes it's just saying, you know what? I'm letting go of any guilt and shame, or I'm letting go of comparison, or I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be because these were the lessons I needed to learn before I got here. And I had to learn so many lessons in order to be in this place in my life with the healthiest relationships, the most beautiful journey as a mom, a leader that wants to make an impact. And I just want you to know, if you're listening and you're doubting yourself, you're questioning yourself, and this journey, get back to your why. You started for a reason. Don't quit on yourself or your vision. Maybe you need to pivot, maybe you need to adapt, but you were put on this planet for a reason. And that is so that others hear your story, so that others are impacted by you. And I know you can absolutely do it. If I can do it, you can absolutely do it too.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So inspiring. Your story is just awesome. And, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, I'm sure you're going to have some people that want to get in touch with you and hear more from you. How can they get in touch with you, Hen?
I'm on social media. So Instagram is Dr. DelRae, which is just DrDelRae. And then Facebook is DelRae Marie Messer. But I am launching a website. It's something I put off for a really long time because I was like, I don't want anything to be about me, like nothing. I'm just like literally a vessel and a voice to hopefully inspire people to live their best life. But I realized having it is good for content, and I want to do a lot of podcast interviews and things like that too. So I'm working on it and calling it Candidly Confident. So just authenticity and confidence, and hopefully inspire others to be a servant leader.
Very cool. I look forward to seeing it. I bet it's going to be a gorgeous website. So I'm glad you're finally doing it. Content is king. We know content is king. DelRae, thank you so much for joining me today. I know all of our audience at AV Academy is going to be super stoked to hear this interview. You had so many great points, and I even had a couple takeaways myself. So I can't wait to hear everybody else's takeaway. And we will talk to you soon. All right.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much, Hen.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone.